Today we're talking about buying real estate, and in particular, buying a second home. Joining me today is Tom Fee, Chairman of Vector Wealth Management. Tom, now I know you've had experience both personally in purchasing second homes as well as professionally helping clients with decisions around buying a second home. What are some of the main items that someone should consider when they're thinking about buying a second home?
Well, there's some obvious ones, and it's based on your circumstances. Are you going to buy a cabin? Are you going to buy a place down south? Is this a gathering spot for your extended family, or is it something that you intend to be just using for yourself and your spouse?
Let's shift gears now and talk a little bit about expenses that go along with buying a second property. A lot of times you think in terms of you're going to have a mortgage typically, taxes, insurance. Those are kind of the main items. What are some of the other things that people may not think about when you actually buy the house that maybe you didn't expect you're going to have to spend money on?
Silverware, dishes, towels, sheets, insurance, boats, golf carts, golf memberships. There's just, oftentimes the second home decision is a lifestyle decision. It could be just you're going someplace it's for hiking only. But oftentimes there's a lot of secondary expenses that you may not be able to use what you had in your primary residence and transfer into the secondary. So you're really creating another set of economics.
Yeah, a lot of times I've heard you explain it as optimizing the assets that you have, as well as making sure you're paying attention to cash flows, knowing those cash flows may go up and down at different time periods, but that can still be acceptable and all fine in terms of financial planning and lining out overall lifelong cash flows.
Yeah, I think optimization in the case of a second home decision, there's just sometimes it's an easy decision. This is what we want, we can afford it, this is what we want to have, decisions made. But the optimization really is about location, price, mortgage, duration, utilization. There's just a lot more that goes into it. This isn't your primary residence. And when you're thinking about a second home, the accretion comes from the joy that it brings you, because that's why you're doing it. You're not doing it to simplify your life. You buy a second home, it ain't simpler. It can be better and should be better, but it isn't necessarily simpler. So it's really about optimizing the decision and optimizing your life. We often say retirement is lived 3 years at a time. The next 3 years, your best 3 years. So, okay, now we're 3 years in, what's left? Well, the next 3 years are your best 3 years. You can reevaluate those decisions because, again, to repeat, it is not linear. You're not going to be wanting to do the things at 85 that you want to do at 68.
How about in terms of the types of second homes that people may either purchase or be involved in, whether it's a timeshare, a fractional, or even an entire house outright? What is the decision process around that as you think about picking which type of second home to be involved with?
Well, this is, again, personal and also professional experience. You want to, or you should at least consider, some folks, the economics just don't matter. But if you want to look at having a place, a gathering spot between your mid-40s and mid-50s, there's some really interesting products out there. Not a huge fan of timeshare, but most certainly a fan of fractional, which we actually purchased and consider to be one of our better personal financial decisions. And a fractional is where you can have a premium property, 1/7 of a premium property, for significantly less economics against it. And then all of the maintenance is taken care of for you. It's a very nice way of easing your way into a community that you may not be sure you want to own a property in, and are also having the right amount of time allocation. Typically fractionals will be 7 weeks a year, and that seems to be how much people are typically using them in the working years.
Now, in more recent times, we've seen interest rates move higher, both in mortgages and just across the entire interest rate market. Mortgages used to be in that kind of 3% range a couple of years ago. Now we're looking at maybe in that 6 to 7% range for a mortgage. How does that impact, or has that impacted people's decisions? And are there ways that people kind of can help offset or think about a higher cost mortgage on a second home?
One of the other things we recommend to our clients is, and again, it's all around making good economic decisions. If this is a later life second home decision, then what we want to look at is the possibility of refinancing that in 5 years if it's not affordable, or again, because it's a second home, not your primary home, the length of time that you might own it. you could say today, well, it looks like it makes a good decision for 10 years, and 3 years from now we could realize, no, it's another 10 years. So it's kind of an iteration on how you decide to have it, how long you want to have it, rather than, we're going to own it until we get our celestial discharge.
Tom, this has been really great. Any last comments or takeaways related to buying a second home?
Well, I have to repeat what I've said before, and that's there are a significant number of variables that go into purchasing a second home. It could be location, duration, mortgage, proximity, all these different factors. Some of them are economic and a lot of them are personal. And so you just want to make sure that you optimize. And the best way to optimize is to be mindful of not only the personal benefits that you're going to get from this, but also that the economic benefits are in alignment with what makes certain in your financial life. I mean, it is why we wrote an application to help frame these decisions and control, hold 10 variables and change one so you can see what the impacts are. Because ultimately the goal is to own this second home and not have it own you.
Thanks, Tom, for joining. This has been really interesting.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
If you have any questions on this topic, please let us know.